Hey guys, welcome to Curator Cast. So today I have a very beautiful video for you, and the best part is you can shoot this whole content inside your house.
I'm sorry, don't know where to begin. Won't get these demons in my head. Please help me find the cause of it. This is the start of something. Oh baby, I've been struggling to find the peace they say is within. I'm a head case, you should run for this.
Now, you often have seen a lot of YouTubers, travel bloggers, content creators use those smooth in-camera transition. For example, car door opens and ends with the buildings or the flat store, hotel store being closed. So that is what you end your first clip in such a way that your second clip starts in a similar, almost similar pattern. So it feels kind of smoothness going from the same clip. That's kind of a perception which is created inside a viewer's mind. In order to do that, you have to plan where you have to end your first video and start almost the same way where your second video starts. Now in this video, I will try to break down my 40 seconds of video timeline, each shot explained, what transition I have used, so you will not get idea about how to shoot a shot but also how to edit that. So it's an end-to-end process and you can learn everything in one single video. This was done for Ikram, who is a fitness expert on Instagram. You can follow him, I will link him down in the description. And with that in mind, let's get this video started. But wait. Please subscribe, because if you subscribe, it helps me a lot to inspire myself, motivate myself to create even more content. So your like, your subscription, your sharing the video helps me in a lot way than you can even think of. So please subscribe. Now let's move on. The first thing which I want you to know is that I am not using any stabilizer, gimbal or even a tripod. So all these shots were handheld and I'm trying to move as slowly as possible so that I don't produce accidental jitters. And for this video, I'm using Sigma 16mm f1.4 and Sony 6500. Now point number 1, shoot at least 2 to 3 similar shots so that when you get home, you have at least more bandwidth in number of shots which you can use in your final product. For example, if you don't like the first one or something is missing in the second one, you can always use a third one, right? Definitely those 2 to 3 shots means the perfect shots. I'm not including trial shots. Now the second point, you often have some idea. For example, I will end my shot with a close-up of the packet, the shaker, and that is where my next shot will start, right? But I would suggest add another field. For example, here I am not just stopping there. I can either cut here or I can move a little bit back to give that rolling transition and start my next clip in a similar manner by moving in a rolling fashion towards the object. So this gives you more creativity when you are home editing. So this is a very useful tip and I found it useful while editing mine. Now the third thing is that you have to plan as much as possible before shooting, maybe a day or 2 days before, and even shooting a single shot, you have to think before that what's your final outcome is going to be. So for example, you see this throwing the packet towards the kitchen. I've taken it in 2 angles and this was not pre-planned. We planned it on the spot and it worked out perfectly as to my taste. And please, before I move forward, do subscribe, because if you subscribe, I will be inspired to bring even more content. Now let me talk to you about the timeline. The timeline is very simple, just 2 tracks, one for audio, one for video, and little bit of transitions here and there and simple cuts. Quickly move on to the timeline and show you immediately what we have done. So in the first shot, we are planning on panning around that the person is seeing on a computer and picking up the packet from the screen. The second set of clips, the person is throwing that protein packet towards the kitchen and we have taken 2 angles to demonstrate that. And the moment where we ended is whey protein visible, and that is where our kitchen shot starts with almost whey protein visible. and the place where we cut our throwing shots, they two blend in perfectly. Now in the kitchen, it's a single shot sliding in towards the edge, and our next shot starts with a little bit of blur transition of tearing off the seal with the scoop falling inside the shaker, and then zoom in transition to give that seamless transition towards the water inside the shaker. Now next shot is my protein is visible on a vertical shaker, and for the dynamic moment I'm starting it with the cap little frame of tightening the shaker and then shaking it and then zooming in back, and then he's obviously shaking the shaker and then zooming it a little bit to again blend in next frame and then sliding the shaker towards the edge. Now this is the beautiful shot. From kitchen we have transitioned to the balcony. Scene have changed, but we have maintained that momentum so that the shaker is sliding, and with that magical transition it transitions to the balcony, and in the balcony again the momentum is maintained, and finally rolling a camera to give that more dynamic feel. And the ending shot is half of the pillar in the first clip, second half of the pillar in the second clip, so that it gives a momentum from moving right to left, and finally the shot of whey protein and the branding visible in focus and ending the clip. Okay, so let me quickly break down this throwing the packet towards the kitchen transition. So in the first shot the packet is being thrown away, and we don't need all this flowing packet in a multiple direction shot. We need to cut somewhere in the middle that it's still in the air. In the next shot we move on from the same part, so the person is throwing the packet towards me, and we stop somewhere where the branding is a little bit visible, because if it's in motion it's smudgy. And finally in the kitchen shot we start almost at the point where we cut, so it was in the center, branding was a little bit visible, and again in the kitchen shot the packet is in the center and the branding is a little bit visible. Okay, so let's break down this kitchen scene. What we are doing here is pulling out the scoop from the packet and then dropping it in the shaker, and in the next clip the water is flowing. Now what we are using in the middle is a bit of zoom transition for that seamless feel, because our focus is inside the shaker, what's happening inside. So first the scoop of whey is being dropped, and second water is being dropped. So that's the focus here which we have tried to cover. Now let's expand the clip and see what's happening. So remember earlier I told you always try to be ready with at least two transitions. So you see, so here I cut actually with a close-up of shaker, but I could have cut at this point where I'm moving a bit backward with a rolling transition. And the next clip, rolling transition of the camera and moving towards the shaker, and see how it works. I like it, it looks good, but in order to reduce the timeline I cut away with the frame. In the next frame I'm starting with the vertical shot with my protein visible on the shaker and then moving back. So again I have two transitions, moving back, or I can end with the vertical transition on the close-up. Now with the next clip I started with the vertical feel of the shaker, but instead I cut away that portion and started with picking up the shaker cap for that momentum. Now see something, we can show that person is screwing the cap of the shaker, but see, everybody knows that you have to turn multiple rounds to finally tighten the cap, and so it's irrelevant. We show only 1 or 2 frames and then switch away to the next frame so that it feels more dynamic rather than boring the audience. And so I could have ended this with the shaker being shaken, and in the next frame it has to be sent away. Now see something, I have taken multiple shots again and again so that when I go home, I start editing, I have everything in place. So in the next shot, what I want to show you here is that I have done a very minute, maybe half a second of cut, and I got away with it because it was producing a little bit of delay, and when I cut, the next frame is almost same location, so you don't even feel a cut. So that is what you have to see intelligently, that where you can get away with the cuts and audience will feel it seamless. Now moving on to the next shot, and I really love this shot. So what I was doing here is that I was thinking that the shaker comes to an end with a stop and it's perfectly in focus. And in the final shot, I will again start the shaker in focus and then move away. But when I came home, I realized that if I use that momentum from the first clip and again the momentum from the second clip, blend them in, it would look perfect. And so that's exactly what I did with this beautiful transition VR gradient vibe. It looks kind of magical and it blends in perfectly. One more thing you might notice here is that in my second frame, I'm starting the shaker location almost where my first shaker ended up being. Now if you see in the second last shot, I'm rolling the camera in almost X, Y and Z axis to give that more 3D movement. See, if you are using a gimbal or a tripod, you might feel constrained. You might feel that, okay, I have a bit of constraint in moving in this axis. But if you are hand-holding it and moving along with the subject, it feels a little bit more organic, a little bit more true to how you would actually perceive that scene. And so that is what I'm doing. I'm trying to track the movement of Ikram drinking with the shaker and matching my movement with that shot. And in the final shot, I am ending the first shot with the pillar and then starting the second shot again with the pillar, which is a very common used technique. So from moving right to left, it blends in perfectly. Now a very important point, if you see in the final shot, I'm not using any manual focus or anything, but I'm using a little bit of half pressing the shutter to focus on the product so that you see it's almost in the focus till the end, which is very important here because we are trying to show my protein branding here. So when I have to produce something quick in a time constrained manner, I try to make my timeline as simple as possible so that it's less confusing and it's easier for me to put in the transitions. Again, while following this, if you have any questions in mind, please link them down in the description. I will surely answer them. Now, this is a simple shoot. I didn't make it very complex so that anybody can follow it, right? So guys, that was all for this video. If you have any questions, please link them down in the description. If you have any idea which I can use to create next, list them down. I will try to definitely incorporate them. And this is a learning community. I'm not saying this was the best content. Definitely it's not the best, but it's a good start. It was my first in-camera transition focused video. So I tried my best. And since we all are learning in this community, please drop in your ideas, your recommendations, your suggestions. Apart from that, please subscribe because that is very important. Without that, inspiration level is a bit low to create a lot of content. So with that in mind, see you again, see you soon. And if you create something, please tag me on my Instagram, which I will link down here. See you soon. Bye.